Congress was set to reopen the government on Wednesday night after Democrats caved, which is a win for Republicans. But on the other hand, now that the government is reopening, the House is on the verge of forcing a vote to release the Epstein files against President Trump's wishes. President Trump, any comment on that?
Shut it down.
So, wait. We just opened it back up. You need to make up your mind. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The government has been shut down for over 40 days, but that has not stopped Donald Trump from continuing his project of turning the White House into a pharaoh's tomb. He took Fox host Laura Ingraham on a tour, and you can tell he was very proud of all of his redecorating.
Take a look at this, fellas. You want to see detail. So, like this sign. Most people would just do a sign, they paint it on the wall. So that's half-inch thick bronze, carved by a very talented person. And it's brass, it's pure brass. It's half-inch thick brass. And you can't just do that. That's, you look at that, that's quality, right?
Cool. But is it bronze or is it brass? Did you get confused? Wait, hold on. That's brass. I'm bronze. And also, with respect, it is not quality. This looks like the entrance to a 55 and over community. The same guy who did your sign also did the Glendale Estates. This is the kind of decor you see at a restaurant that has a fish tank in the waiting area. That's probably the next thing Trump is going to add to the Oval Office. It's an honor to have the president of Finland here with us. We'll be discussing trade, but first he can pick whichever lobster he wants. Also, can we please go back to this part?
Most people would just do a sign, they paint it on the wall.
No, they wouldn't do that. Nobody ever painted directly on the wall of the White House. And if they did, they certainly wouldn't write the Presidential Walk of Fame, because that is a dumb thing. For over 200 years, the White House has been a place of quiet dignity with its subtle grandeur and neoclassical style, and Trump turned it into a celebrity center. But don't worry, Ingraham followed up with the hard-hitting questions.
Where are your speakers? Because I heard this.
All here.
They're in the bushes?
They're all here.
When did you decide you were a frustrated DJ? How long ago was that?
I don't do that much, but I think having good sound is important.
Wow, that is a pretty sassy question. That's something my wife would ask me if I disappeared for an hour during a party. Where have you been? I was making the playlist. Oh, I forgot. You're a frustrated DJ. Forget it. I'm going back to my man cave. If you're looking for me, follow the sign. But whatever you think of Trump's redesign, Ingraham was floored by his mastery of the details.
Okay, I've been to the White House I don't know how many times. I didn't know most of that. I was fascinated by it. And the attention to detail is, I don't care what you say, you like it, you don't like it. Okay, he has enormous talent. I thought it was really cool.
Attention to detail. We talking about this guy? The bronze brass guy? Who said it had been carved by a person? Also, is this why we elected him? So he would pay granular attention to the details of the house only he's allowed to live in and nothing else? But Ingraham is right. Say what you will about Trump. When it comes to remodeling, he knows all the fine points. Ask him any questions. He knows the answer.
That's the same stone as the White House. So now you can have news conferences. You can, nobody could stand in the mud.
Where did you get the stone?
Different places.
Different places?
Yeah.
Different places. Rocktown, Stone World. I think we got some at Stone World. I'm a valued shopper at Stone World, so I get... Not sure what I enjoy more, the fear in his eyes as he says different places, or the hand gesture he makes while he says it. If you don't know, that's the international symbol for when masons get rocks from multiple quarries. A little from this one, a little from that one, It's also fun when someone giving a softball interview doesn't realize they're about to accidentally throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball because Trump is talking out of his ass. We're thinking about having Melania's birthday out here. Oh, when is her birthday? When isn't it? So this is what Trump was focused on while the government was shut down, which is why his party got crushed in last week's elections and why his poll numbers are abysmal. People are finally seeing the gap between what Trump pretends to care about and what he actually cares about. The Democrats were finally winning the messaging war. Or, as Maine Senator Angus King put it, Democrats took the L.
Standing up to Donald Trump didn't work.
It didn't? It seemed like it was working to me. Democrats were finally winning elections while Trump was wandering around the White House like a property-only child. By the way, even if you think it didn't work, don't say that out loud. How are you this bad at politics? Just say Republicans were willing to harm people and we weren't, so we had to let this one go. What if King's colleagues please debunk this nonsense?
Senator Angus King was asked this morning to respond to your criticisms of the Democrats who voted yes last night. He said, his response was, "What's your strategy, man?" And, quote, "Standing up to Donald Trump didn't work."
Well, maybe Angus didn't notice the elections on Tuesday. I thought that they worked pretty well. Maybe Angus is not noticing the polling. I think the Republicans are on the defensive, and in my view, it was the vote that Angus cast was the wrong vote.
First, Bernie never seems to enjoy anything, but he does seem to enjoy saying Angus. Not my favorite thing that Angus has ever done. Second, why are you making Bernie sit outside? Was the CNN studio booked up? Oh no, is Trump remodeling that too? Don't be sad. It's gonna be beautiful. Tapper's new show is gonna be all marble from different places, and you're gonna love the new logo. So the government is set to reopen, which might seem like a win for Republicans. Now, let's check the agenda. What's the first item of business? I'm sure it's something Donald Trump wants, maybe cutting environmental regulations, more tax cuts, perhaps.
In just a few hours, we know Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva will be sworn in, and she is expected to tip the scales, to force a vote to compel the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files.
Once sworn in, Grijalva is expected to be the final signature needed to force a vote on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein case files. She told CNN that releasing the files is a top priority.
When reached for comment, House Speaker Mike Johnson responded, "Wait, no, shut it back down." Johnson had been using the shutdown as an excuse to put off the Epstein vote. It's a complicated procedural issue, so to jazz it up, we hired the same guy who did Trump's redecorating. House Speaker Mike Johnson has been suppressing attempts to vote on releasing the Epstein files amid pressure from Trump's White House. But a majority of House members can force a vote through what's known as a discharge petition, which needs 218 signatures. They were one signature away when Democrat Adelita Grijalva won a special election for an open seat in Arizona, but Johnson refused to swear her in during the shutdown. Now that the shutdown is over, Johnson has no choice, and once she's sworn in, she will become the 218 signature on the petition, which would trigger a vote to force the Department of Justice to release the full Epstein case files, which are expansive and wide-ranging, and much like Trump's marble, comes from different places. We got that from Scroll City. Worth the money. All right, fine, so what? So the House is now closer than ever to forcing a vote to release the full Epstein files. Whatever's in there can't be that bad for Trump, right?
We do have breaking news in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing emails that they say were written by Jeffrey Epstein that explicitly, specifically mention Donald Trump by name.
House Democrats released newly obtained emails from Jeffrey Epstein alleging that President Trump, quote, spent hours at his home with one of Epstein's victims and also, quote, knew about the girls. Democrats say the emails raise new questions about Trump's ties to Epstein.
They raise new questions? To me, it sounds like they answer old questions. Like, I'm no detective, but if one of the questions was, did Trump know about the girls, and you find an email from Jeffrey Epstein that says Trump knew about the girls, that sounds pretty damning. This is like if you're investigating a murder suspect and you search their house, and in the closet they have a shoebox labeled murder weapon inside on the top, and on the side it says, yes, that murder. And then you ask the suspect where they were on the night of the murder, and they say,
Different places.
You'd be like, Chief, I think we got him. Of course, Trump called Epstein a terrific guy, and Epstein called Trump his closest friends of 10 years, and there's video of them partying and laughing together, and this is cool. We have new technology that allows us to hear what Trump was whispering to him. Check it out.
You know I'm also a DJ. I made the playlist.
And that's not the only damning... I think that might have been me. I think that might have been my voice. And that's not the only damning email released by Democrats today.
These are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011. And in this email, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump.
Of course, that was in 2011. Since then, all Trump has done is bark. Oh, Jeffrey, had you only lived to hear him bark. One would say he even growls. I mean, look at him. He looks like he should be on the White House lawn snarling at a mailman. Not only is that a damning statement about Trump's ties to Epstein, it's also an insult because Trump hates dogs.
CNN is dying like a dog. I dropped him like a dog. He's a guy that was thrown out of his family business like a dog. I'm sweating like a dog up here. They are cheating dogs. She lied like a dog. He was fired. Like a dog, he was fired. She basically choked and froze like a dog.
Dogs don't choke, they don't tell lies, and they don't get fired. Even when a dog has a job, like sniffing for drugs at the airport, if they're bad at it, you just replace them. You don't sit them down and say, sorry, Rex, it's just not working out. Trump claimed his top priority would be lowering prices for hardworking Americans, but instead he's spending his time dodging Epstein questions and remodeling the White House. At this point, to claim that Trump cares about anyone other than himself, you'd have to have balls made of
Pure breast.
This has been a closer look.